start arguing and they play that music.
I don't want to burn panel, but I mean I guess I'm not because I'm in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But I this morning I was scrolling on X, the Everything app, and I saw a Hassan Piker ranting about if you can eat 2 slices of pizza and then stop over a Midwest emo jangly guitar thing. It was really incredible, and
That's so good.
I feel like this is a new an evolution of internet culture that I truly support. I really love
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
Being able to eat 2 slices of pizza and stopping over music.
Yeah.
There was
if you can do that, you are not human. You are not a human being. You are not. We are not the same organism.
There's a video about it's like a local news guy talking about how he hates February, but then somebody put the Disco Elysium music over it. It's really good. It's a really good video. That's a classic.
So we're here to talk about Midwest emo renditions. No, we're here to talk about a book that is coming out on Tuesday that I wrote, shockingly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's called Stream Big, The Triumphs and Turmoils of Twitch and the Stars Behind the Screen. And it's by me, Nathan Grayson. And it's about a bunch of Twitch streamers and their lives and their careers and all that stuff. And so I figured that we would do a little panel today where we just talk about Twitch as a platform and as a medium. And so I invited some of my friends here to do that with me.
Yeah.
Right here is Chris Person.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. And this is Simone. Yeah. The only non-Aftermath member of the panel.
Yeah, lucky me.
Yeah. Simone's a Polygon. You may have heard of it.
Maybe take that off the thing so you can pass it off. Sorry, this is my fucking microphone acoustic shit.
I get to hang out with the cool indie kids today. It's very nice for me.
Hi, I'm Gita.
It's Gita. Hey everyone, it's Gita.
You might have heard of them from such places as online.
That's where I tend to be.
And now, before we get underway, I've been instructed to open this box. So I'm going to do that. I have no idea what's inside of it.
Box. Did the Riddler give this to you?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay. It's the second box.
Nice. Okay, there's a smaller box in for podcasting's sake. For audio only, there's now a smaller.
Third box, I swear to God.
Box.
There's no way it's going to be a fourth box. That's impossible. It's against the law.
Box!
Fuck the police.
Box.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
This is a really good bit.
How deep does it go?
How do you get them to fit that well?
Oh!
Yo! Let's go. Fifth box.
Okay. Humor operates on the rule of fives, so there can't be more than this.
They're gonna run out of boxes
That's the cutest
eventually.
little box. I love it.
Okay, so I should say, this is from my partner, who's right there. Do they sell kits to do this bit? Is that okay? There we go.
Oh my god!
Whoa!
It's gonna take up the entire table, but sure.
The thing is,
Six box.
Please be not a box.
oh my fucking god!
Whoa!
It's a tiny version of my own book.
It's funny given the name of the book.
However, the pages are blank. So.
Just
I
like
don't
the
know.
real book.
Low effort gift.
I think I know the person or the vendor who sells those.
Wow, this is incredible.
Thank you for putting this back together so elegantly.
Whoa, what the? I did not look while you did that, so this is
I just put the boxes in the boxes.
So
That's such
you're
a-
on the spectrum, is what you're telling us.
Here you go.
This is one of those podcast jokes that's going to make a lot of sense for people listening to this on audio. But yeah, 5 boxes containing a very small book.
Yes.
6? I'm sorry, I lost count.
Yeah, it
There
is
were so
hard
many.
to count past 5. I often struggle.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Show.
How many pages are in your book? Do you remember?
288.
Well,
That sounds
okay.
right.
So
Somewhere
you
in there.
are able to count past 5. So.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well,
Fucking
The publisher
owned.
could have told
Yeah.
publisher could have told Nathan that though.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it was like they're like just
And even then, they had to remind me a lot. I was like, it's 5 million pages? No, it's
he
288.
just knows the number phonetically at this point.
Hey,
It's really
Nathan?
not.
I also can't read.
He's the only man to write a book who can't read.
What's the
Well, I don't know.
Garth-
Based on some books I've seen, I think.
So Nathan, let's talk about Twitch.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I
I-
actually wanted to start with all of y'all's like relative, levels of experience with Twitch, or like how it fits into your life, whether you stream or whether you regularly watch it. So let's go in a fun little circle kind of a thing.
Okay, so I used to for highlight reel I used to check r/like live stream fails, and because like occasionally you'd get somebody like doing the fucking like grape lady thing where you fall down, but it's like in the Dark Souls context, and that hasn't been relevant for like 5 years now, because I think I posted this on various social media platforms, but basically I saw what was just 2 people who I didn't know unless I really had to think about it. And it was like, so-and-so said so-and-so should cut ties with Asmongold, blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, this is just Real Housewives. This is all this shit is. This shit is Real Housewives with gaming-related characteristics. And the streams that I do like tend to be people I know directly or someone playing a retro video game that nobody has cared about since 1988. And then like, I don't know, yeah, live tournaments. Like there is good stuff there, but like it's impossible. The structure of Twitch sucks ass. It's impossible to like find clips. The clipping structure sucks.
It really does. Also, yeah, live stream fail is a cesspit. I will be doing an AMA there next Saturday.
Nice.
Nathan, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, actually, it started as a thing where I was covering it, like, because I realized that nobody else was really covering it seriously, like, as a journalistic kind of pursuit. And then over time, when you cover something for long enough, you either learn to hate it or you learn to love it or some version of both. And for me, like, I started to then watch it habitually. And now it's just like the background of my life. I just always have Hassan Piker's channel on in my home. And that makes you a healthy, well-adjusted person, for sure.
It's very normal and good. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I might be the only person in the world who has had like exclusively good experiences with Twitch.
Yeah, 'cause you've like raised a lot of money via Twitch for good causes.
A fair bit, but I'm remembering it just like came back to me. My first time using Twitch, I was in college, terribly ill-advised. My roommate and I decided to do a drunk stream of PT. I don't think we even had a microphone, and we're like struggling through the arcane puzzles, and people were being really nice and like giving me advice and stuff, and that has been a trend that has continued. But as far as watching, like I love tuning into big events like Evo and GDQ.
Let's
Obviously,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't know,
yeah.
GDQ is Games Done Quick. It's a speedrunning marathon that happens twice per year in the winter and the summer, and it rules. It's like, if you feel bad about the state of gaming culture in general, go watch that and like have some of your faith restored, because it's like viewed by 80,000 people at a time at any given moment. And it's just like a bunch of like trans people having a great time speedrunning games.
Yeah, makes
It
you feel very
rules.
tender about the state of humanity.
Again, it restores some amount of hope.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
There are good people out there doing really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm trying to think back to even where I first heard of Twitch, but it just seemed like it became a part of the way that I kept up with people over the internet for a while, where watching someone stream a game and hearing them talk to me became a way for me to keep up with friends after I've moved around like a couple of times after college. So I have a disparate group of friends all across the country. I think like a lot of people do. I used to have like a regular, like 10 years ago or something, had a regular live stream with an ex that ended up being a part of the way that we broke up, which was so embarrassing. Yeah, no, like he was just really annoying on the stream and would like try to corner me with questions that he knew I didn't want to answer in our like a relationship live, and I would just freak out at him. It was literally like
Yeah.
a reality show in
Which,
an incredibly
to Chris's
unpleasant
point
way.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I am interested in being on Twitch and like streaming on Twitch for Aftermath. I wanted to
.site/product. Subscribe now.
Yeah, I'm interested in, after I figure out the sort of audio visual setup, doing Dwarf Fortress streams and like strategy games and The Sims and stuff like that. I got really, really into Little Simsies, like charity live streams. You know what I'm talking about. And just there's something, as a person who works from home and is alone a lot, just the sounds of people in my house interact with each other pleasantly is very, very comforting for me. Literally, up until the moment I left, I was watching Ludwig VODs because my husband was at class. And I was watching his chat torture him by buying shit he doesn't want for his. And it's just like, I used to fall asleep to Let's Plays. And then as Let's Plays became less of a something awful oriented, highly detailed, highly edited video project and became more of a like, oh, I'm just gonna play through this whole game. They became less interesting to me. The Let's Play I used to fall asleep to was Giant Bomb playing Persona 4. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, what a fucking classic. But Twitch streaming really took over that space in my life for me.
Yeah.
And the other weird thing, which I think Hassan Piker knows, my dad is like this old school leftist, and I got him watching Hassan, and now every time we catch up, we literally talk about Hassan Piker.
Nice.
My dad knows who Ethan Klein is, and I didn't
I'm
want
sorry.
that
That's
for
not
him.
good. Never mind.
Yo, sorry to be
Too far.
Sorry to be petty, but Ethan got way meaner. I mean, like, since he lost all the weight. Like, I don't mean that in a body shaming way. I just think it made him mean. Like,
I don't mean that in this way, but I do.
no.
mean that.
I mean, like when, like, he just seems like he's just like, okay, how to phrase this? He just seems like he's just pissed off all the time. Whereas before he felt
hungry.
He's hungry. Yeah, no. He
Get that bitch a
he got the
Snickers. He
GLP-1
needs
in
it.
his system, and he got the fucking semaglutide in his system, and it just made him like constantly hangry. As before, he would be like evil, but in kind of like a Logie way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I have
like
good
he would,
news, though.
every time I see a clip of him, it just looks like he's about to like just like throw a chair at someone, and
He's
it's
like
just it's a different dynamic.
Previously,
I
he
mean-
was like a jester in a corrupt court that was begging for death, you know?
Yeah.
Where and now it seems like he is going to start sniping people from a highway overpass. Like, that's what it feels like.
He's just amped in a way that I don't think is healthy.
Yeah,
And,
the
you
good
know,
news is RFK Jr. will fix this.
I'll see all of you in the ADHD word camps, guys.
We're going to New Path, like in a Scanner Darkly, and
Oh, God.
you know we're gonna find the little flowers on the ground.
Yeah.
But to the point that I think that you made, it is interesting to kind of chart the course that Twitch has taken over time, because it did used to be very much like when it first started, it was all about video games. Like that was the whole point. It was this offshoot, for those who don't know, of a site called Justin TV. And so
God.
basically it was a streaming platform from back in the like kind of 2010s era, where it was started by this guy named Justin Kahn, and he decided to like quote unquote life stream. So basically just like stream his entire life day to day. And then that grew into a platform where people did a bunch of various things. A lot of piracy, which made them kind of change their ways after a bit because they were in trouble, or they
Yeah.
were afraid of getting in trouble. And then eventually they were like, people like to watch other people play video games. And then also, we're all really into StarCraft 2 right now. What if we just make a video game version of the thing we already have? And they did that, and it took off. It took off to such a huge degree that eventually they're like, let's just fold Justin TV into this. This is actually bigger than our original thing, so let's just start anew with a different brand.
Has anybody ever seen the documentary We Live in Public?
I have not seen it, but it's been on my list.
It's
for
terrifying.
years.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
It's terrifying, but basically, the log line version is a guy who got rich in like the first like internet bubble boom, like, and on something that eventually would just be worthless, but he crashed out at the correct moment. Decided to do the Stanford prison experiment, but for streaming in like basically on Broadway in New York City, like where the fucking Muji, like, you know, like either the Muji store or like it was just like back in the 90s when New York City was really fucked up. And the idea was like everybody will be living in this like weird fish tank space, and everybody will be streamed, and it ended very badly.
It was like every single moment of their life was streamed.
The
like,
shower
them having
was
sex, going to the shower, going
the
to the
shower
bathroom.
did not have curtains, was in the center of the room, like shit like that. It is cult shit. It is fascinating, but it is also one of the most predicted, like it's really prescient in the evilest way possible, so it is worth noting. But I did realize as I was watching it, I want to say like 8 or 9 years ago, that I knew one of the guys in it.
Oh boy, of course.
Because
Yeah.
he was in a weird freegan space. If anyone knows Surreal Estate.
Fuck.
The Surreal Estate, the quick version of this is somebody had enough money, I forget if it was QVC money, but somebody had enough like independent wealth to basically buy an entire like sublet lease the entire building on the Morgan Stop and decided to make it into a commune. And then like I remember there were like a bunch of heroin addicts that lived next door, and then they just the Freegans had decided that they wanted to like basically axe a hole in the wall so that they could like because they were hanging out with each other, and eventually they ended up hating each other. But that's aside from the point, because one of the guys who lived there was like, I believe, a Belgian or French guy who kept talking about conspiracy theories, and then I saw him in the documentary. I was like, oh, that's how you got like that.
Yeah, that actually does.
And now we're all like that. Now we're all like that.
Yeah, we are all like that. But no, like the origins of live streaming do have a lot of like little kind of moments akin to that where people don't really know about them. Like one of the first things considered to be a precursor to live streaming was like in the late 90s, and it was somebody basically taking a webcam, having it in their college dorm, and like instead of it being an actual stream, it was a series of like snapshots every like 15 or 30 seconds. It was like on some time interval.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, she was a college student, and she also streamed kind of just everything. And so like there was a component of like sex work to it and things of that nature. And then that ties into like what happened in the future with Twitch being very opposed to anything sexual and like being very worried about that, even though the foundations of this medium were kind of, you know, grown in that way. So yeah, there are all these like little tangential things that eventually came together to form what we now know as live streaming. But it's interesting that it started with video games, because Twitch initially was very focused on like, they were like, okay, you can only stream games on this. If you do anything else, you'll get in trouble, you'll get banned or suspended. And then people kept trying to find ways around that. So they'd take gameplay footage and shrink it as much as possible and then have a big version of themselves on screen. And Twitch was like, okay, we see what you're doing there. Please cut that out. Until they eventually just sort of gave in. They're like, I guess people really like to do this, and there's an audience for it. So let's just have a portion of Twitch for just chatting, where people can just talk at each other or at their audiences. And I think that really led to kind of what y'all have both been talking about, the kind of like reality TV-ification of Twitch, where we went from this thing where people mostly watch video games, a lot of esports. That was kind of the early community that really embraced Twitch as a thing, and which Twitch in turn targeted by going to all their events and constantly kind of being like, okay, we have this platform where you can engage with your community. And then they'd be like, why would I want to do that? I'd give away all my strategies. And they're like, to get fans, be popular, make money. And they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, in a way, I used to be, when I was at Kotaku, like huge asshole about the idea that YouTubers were famous. And like at that time, 2016-ish, that wasn't really true. Now I do think it's true. Internet personalities definitely achieve real fame.
Oh, yeah.
They get invited to like they've been indoctrinated into the entertainment industry complex. And part of that is because Twitch is just television.
Yeah.
Twitch,
reality
like,
TV specifically.
It's a mode of entertainment that we've normalized wholly in our culture. Reality TV wasn't always normalized. It was something that arose out of the writers' strike in 2008 as a way to sort of disrupt labor, essentially.
Well, the real world did exist before then. Like obviously
true.
reality
That's
TV
true.
did exist before then, but like it had that explosion, I will agree, because it's like, fuck, what do we do? How can we legally get around this?
Did you watch The Contestant, the Hulu documentary?
No. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really, really good. There's this Japanese TV show that was kind of like the reality TV show that was kind of started as a survival show where Japanese people would be put in these like, you know, extreme situations. You know, they'd send them to like another country and be like, okay, survive without speaking the language.
Batsu games, right?
Something like that. But then one of the things that they did, to your point about surveillance, was they cast this guy to live in a single room off of prizes for a year,
Yeah.
like magazine scratch off prizes. Or no, he would write postcards and send them in and try to win like food to eat and clothes to wear. They put him nude in a room and made him live there, and they filmed the whole thing, and then they would cut it down to like 8 minutes an episode. And there's a documentary about this because he kind of was manipulated in many ways and did not fully understand like how much of it would be broadcast, because they told him it kind of wouldn't be. So he was like, okay, I guess I'm just in this room. Really, really fucked up. But it's a great story just about how reality TV was born, which I think ties into where we are now, and then B, how being constantly observed can kind of manipulate your behavior, and you get into this sunk cost fallacy of like not being able to escape that situation.
Yeah.
Well, there's also there's this repeated, because it keeps coming back to this idea of what if we surveilled somebody constantly, and like that's shown up in so many different iterations of what would become live streaming and what is live streaming now. Like a big thing that a lot of streamers do, Kai Cenat especially, is just like ongoing marathons, subathons, where they never end. So somebody like, has their day on stream, then they sleep on stream, then they have like other entertainment come up while they're sleeping, but they're still there. And like there's this appeal to both seeing somebody go through every facet of their lives indefinitely, and also just like, it's voyeurism, right? Like we all want to see things we're not supposed to see.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think,
people have found a way to monetize that, which is
part of
kinda
the
messed up,
reason why Twitch has, in some ways, I was thinking about this. I think Twitch has become more of a water cooler event in our social lives for a lot of people our age and younger, like millennials and younger, than actual television is. There was that Severance installation at Grand Central where people came and like watched them, which was really cool. I hadn't really seen that level of enthusiasm for a TV show in a really long time. Maybe White Lotus returning tonight also.
on HBO. Subscribe?
Yeah, maybe. It's got fucking Walton
No.
Goggins on. I'm ready. But I remember one day my husband was coming home from grad school and he was like, I just got off in Grand Central and there's all these teenagers around. It's like, baby, Kai Cenat is like in where you are right now. Like, this is something like I'd never, there was just like a swarm of teenagers, like completely breaking down Union Square, and totally terrifying. But try to think of another kind of cultural event for young people that would like inspire that level of like active activity. They left their homes for that because they wanted to find him.
I do think that a little bit of it is just like you just go on Twitch and it's there. Like I think that there's, oh God, this is sort of a side tangent, but there used to be the ability to, like, they legally had to make it so you could watch like New York local television on the internet. And then they took that shit away from us, and it was really annoying. But like just the ability of like, I'm going to a website and there's TV there, and I don't have to complicate it any more than that. But if I get attached to this person, I can send them money, Soupy Sale style, is like an interesting way to kind of, fucking Soupy Sales, that's a reference too old for me. It's true. Anyway, the only reason I know about that is The Simpsons. But yeah, no, just the ability of like, I don't know, man, like paying for television's hard for a lot of people. Like if you're fucking like 22 and you're like, do I get, like, I can kind of get Netflix, I guess not anymore. Maybe if I borrow somebody's login, oops, they fucked that up. Well, no, you just log into Twitch.
I mean, there's also, Twitch has the ability to let you like subscribe to individual creators. And I think it's just more appealing to subscribe to a person that you know and see and who you can materially affect than like a network. Like a network is this amorphous thing. And in this day and age, like they're demonstrably trying to get more and more money from us. It's very irritating. Nobody likes them. It's this obligatory thing you have to do to access what you want to access.
Yeah.
Whereas Twitch starts with a default state of free. And then if you don't want ads, you can just subscribe to a creator. And they'll be like, oftentimes they'll be like, hey, thank you so-and-so for doing that.
When you pay for fucking like Max or any of these things, like Homer Simpson doesn't go, hey, thanks.
But he should.
He should.
Why aren't you thanking me, Homer?
Oh, I'm going to go get a frosty milkshake.
What this all makes me think of is one of Twitch's first breakout stars, which is like controversial for a lot of reasons, but like Ice Poseidon, right?
Oh, God.
The bit of Ice Poseidon became fucking ruin my life in public. Like find me and make me fucking miserable.
Yeah, he would like, for those who don't know him, he was this guy who got really big on Twitch in like 2016, 2017. And his whole bit is that he would like, not exactly reveal his location to everyone on stream, but basically do it, like have enough information in where he was that people could come up, like show up wherever he, like they would show up in restaurants and places like that. Like I think at one point somebody went to a restaurant and like used a fire extinguisher on him.
Jesus
and
Christ.
like yeah, and like he got kicked out, of course. They do things like that. He eventually got banned from Twitch because somebody tried to SWAT him. That means call a SWAT team on him while he was boarding an airplane. Yeah. And so like the SWAT team showed up and like took him off the airplane and everything. And at that point, Twitch was like, okay, this has gone too far. You can't keep using our platform as a means of like facilitating semi-illegal activity. You got to go
It's
away.
just terrorizing one man.
Yeah.
You know, you can't SWAT Homer Simpson. It's a big thing. But no,
But you should
But
be
you should be
to.
able to. Yeah.
Do you know what
Come
Ice
on,
Poseidon's doing
HBO.
now?
Ice Poseidon, isn't he on different streaming
yeah, he's on Kick.
platforms?
And Kick.
Yeah, he's on
Okay,
Kick.
that makes sense.
He got in big trouble with Kick too, actually,
That's
because he
hard.
had this whole horrible thing he did that he says he wasn't complicit in, where basically one member of his group was like interacting with a sex worker, and unbeknownst to her, it was being filmed.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that was actually a watermark moment for Twitch because they had to implement real rules after that.
Kick's gonna get okay. I don't know under this administration, but like in any other circumstance, Kick would be like they fucking knocked the doors out on that place, man. I'm sorry. Like that's the fucking nastiest site.
Yeah, Kick, for those who don't know, is basically Twitch, but it's owned and operated by the founders of a gambling organization called Stake. Stake used to be on Twitch, or they used to sponsor a bunch of Twitch streamers until Twitch eventually said, okay, we're not going to facilitate gambling anymore. And by that point, the owners of Stake realized that being in the live streaming world was so profitable for them as a marketing tool that they could just make their own Twitch and keep doing it and keep funneling millions of dollars into it. And so Kick is like, what if you had Twitch, but it was evil?
Yeah, there is
Explicitly
these, like,
instead of implicitly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's this, I mean, I was thinking about what Simone said about doing charity streams and like having really positive community building experiences. I know that for Polygon especially, Twitch streaming has been huge just in terms of and creating the longevity of the site where, but there's this double-sided thing where it's like on the one side there's the good, generous community building Twitch, and then there's fucking the dark side evil Twitch that is something I remember a few years ago there was a huge problem with Black streamers constantly facing non-stop racist harassment where people would make bot accounts with racist names with slurs in them and then just use the raid feature to raid a Black person's channel with slurs, and it would happen too fast for them to be able to moderate their chat. And there is this, like, Twitch is born out of like a good community building, community focused place, but there is also this potential for great human personal harm that exists on the platform as well. And Twitch as an organization has not really sorted out how to deal with this thing. Like, of course, the worst parts of the community, I think, like Aiden Ross is on Kick now, you know, some of the
Another
most
person who got banned.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like some of the most toxic people, they have just said, okay, well, we understand. This is blah, 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 blah. But then there's also someone like Asmongold, who had a temporary ban for calling Muslims and Arabs
Palestinians and inferior people.
Yeah, it's like there is this part of Twitch that is deeply, deeply toxic, and Twitch, the corporation, literally just doesn't know what to do about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like, it always is after a certain size. So like if somebody's a smaller streamer and they say something like that, they're probably out the door, or at least they're banned for a really long time. And like they'll need to change their ways, or else, you know, they face a permanent ban. But like they're never going to ban Asmongold, because Asmongold is one of the biggest streamers on the platform. And as in recent times, has become like kind of the biggest political streamer on the platform. Like he often talks about politics. He pulls bigger audiences than Hassan. And so, yeah, like after he made his comment about Palestinians, he was banned for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, there were several other streamers who were Palestinian, who during a panel at TwitchCon, so Twitch's convention, where they had to approve all this beforehand, like did a kind of series of tongue-in-cheek jokes about like not even Israel, but about like they were basically ranking who had a pass to say like a certain word. Anyway, like it was a culturally funny joke. They got banned for a month, just for like doing a bit, whereas Asmongold's whole thing was like saying on no uncertain terms, I think these people are worse and they deserve what's happening to them. Double standard.
Also, he's fucking dumb. I'm sorry. Like,
He's really dumb.
Like, this is the thing I really hate about, like, I mean, probably the worst layer of hell is, like, debate guy stuff. Notwithstanding, like, people like Hassan. Hassan's basically just fucking out there. I mean,
So he's not a debate guy.
but you know, he's
he's
like adjacent to people who are adjacent to those people, and will, you know what I mean? Like, he'll bring them on occasionally, and like,
but he
won't
very,
debate
like,
them, but like,
I mean, I think that this is kind of the difference. Is like,
no, it is.
Yeah.
I guess what I need to say is, like, every time I see like one of the like politics people who is existing exclusively on YouTube, I like wonder if they could pass a high school civics course.
Absolutely not.
Like, could you name all three the like legislative, executive? Could you do that shit?
No shot.
Could you figure out how Schoolhouse Rocks works? Because I don't think you can.
To
They
give you an
actually
idea of
care
how,
either way.
to give you an idea of how this works for like debate people. I mean, the main one of those is a guy named Destiny.
Fucking
That's
hate
the
him.
handle. Oh yeah, he's awful. And how he prepares for his debates is he goes on Wikipedia for a little bit, and he's like, okay, now I'm the world's foremost expert on this topic. And it's like, yeah, you can't get away with that in high school. Why do you think you can do it here? But I think that this does go back to kind of the broader arc of Twitch as well, which is that, again, we started with video games, and now we have a bunch of people who are like politically important, despite the fact that some of them, Asmongold, don't really do anything that would confer authority. Like, they don't actually do their research. They just hear shit elsewhere online. And because they already have an audience, they can then become an authority figure to the people who are in that audience, which originally is there because they're like, yeah, I like how he plays World of Warcraft.
Maybe the left needs a rat alarm clock. Maybe that's what we've been missing this whole time.
Yes. That's a real thing, too. For a while...
Dead rat alarm clock.
Yeah, wait, Chris, can you explain the mechanics of the rat alarm clock?
Oh, it's on a windowsill, and then it's a dead rat, and when the heat from the window like heats it up, the smell wakes him up to the point where he can no longer. It's basically he created a weird fucked up sundial involving like decomposition, and people have reminded him, hey, what the fuck was that about? Forever since, and.
Yeah, he in this case is
Asmongold.
Asmongold.
Yeah, this is a real thing.
Yeah, so one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. He's also like, and I think
that's how we get socialism. We need our own.
You know,
But no, it is this like really like weird degenerate behavior that I think also speaks to a lot of the people who watch him, because like if he doesn't have to change, and he can cultivate this massive audience of people who like, you know, fall on his every word, then they also don't have to change. They can also just continue to be in the state of arrested development and like have these politics that are very aggressive to the outside world and that, you know, suggest that everyone else is less than them, even though like the truth is probably they just need to grow up a little bit and like have actual lives.
You know, it does remind me of when you talk to Trump voters, what they say about what they like about Trump. They don't really care about the policies. They like him and his personality because they sense and recognize something in him that they want to embody. Like just the way that he wields power is appealing to them, and they think that by voting for him, they become part of a fandom or a community that will convey some of that power to you. And you definitely see like Destiny hanger-ons and Asmongold hanger-ons like create this highly toxic community in other parts of the video game space because they feel emboldened by knowing that they are copying their favorite streamer and it's okay for him to do it, so this is an okay way for me to be also.
Destiny has set back bisexual guys by about 25 years. We're back to the fucking Newsweek cover where it's like three people looking in different directions.
Sure.
It's troubling. It's really troubling.
Neither here nor there, but Chris, I just noticed your shoes are really cool.
Thank you.
But also,
They're ROAs.
I think that Gita was getting to something that is really salient, both to Twitch and in general, which is that now everyone's an influencer. Like, we went from this, you know, early Twitch was this time when we were still figuring out what that meant. And, like, even just basic mechanics of what does it mean to exist on a platform? How do you make money off of it? Like, a lot of that emerged on Twitch. Twitch was the first place to have subscriptions to individual creators. That was, like, one streamer named Day9 was like, hey, Twitch, there should be a way for me to make money. What if people just gave me $5? And they're like, yeah, we'll make a button for that. Cool. And that became, like, a thing on every platform eventually. But now it's like so ingrained in culture that if you are somebody with an audience, you're also like an influencer, an aspirational figure, somebody that other people want to be like, and they watch as much as possible, and they take not just their cues from in terms of video games and how to play them, but also political leaning and taste and like what they do with their day. I think a non-zero number of people have gotten into like fitness and working out because of Hassan Piker.
Yeah.
And similarly, I'm sure that many people have rat alarm clocks now because of Asmongold.
I will say he could do that as merch. I'm just a little like
Yeah.
little like clock inside of like a furry little like fluffy,
That could be a great service.
Yeah, it could be. Actually, the
He's
department.
going to team up with Eric Adams. This is
Yeah.
the next phase of the war on rats.
Okay, just making
Are
sure
you
we're
sure?
on there.
You could expound on that point of him coming
It's
to your
okay.
apartment.
I'm just making sure this is like top.
Rats, okay.
We got rats, yeah. Fuck, man, I really don't like that man.
I do-
I'm sorry. A lot of this is just me realizing I find a lot of these people unpleasant.
You know,
And
it's
a lot of them.
Just texturally.
Yeah, actually, let's do that part.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I'm looking at my little run of show repeatedly.
You know, I
Let's
like-
go to favorite and least favorite creators. Parentheses, this could be fun, comma, provide an opportunity to discuss portions of the book. And also, most importantly, start shit.
I feel like you guys have already started a lot of shit.
Sorry.
Then let's keep it
I
going.
don't know any other way to be, unfortunately.
I like slow beef.
Slow beef, yeah.
I think you get like slow beef doesn't get their flowers, you know. And slow beef was something awful. Like this is ancient shit. They
I
didn't.
created the Let's Play, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, the LP doesn't really have the same trajectory as it does without slow beef, and slow beef is just like I don't know, just a guy from New Jersey. I've hung out with a couple times. He's nice. He's been on like online as an ambient presence for a really long time. I remember they used to go and do like Retropray and like do the like they would like do basically MST for other people's LPs. It was kind of mean, but it was like there's one that's like for I think Mario Lost Levels that's where they're just being tormented by the fact that it's like Christmas and this guy just can't beat like the last levels, and it's just you feel for them too. And I think they realize that there's an inherent meanness to that you kind of can't get over because it's like, you know, who is this person relative to the like it's a time and place thing, but like I don't know, eventually there were some like old 90s adventure games that I remember like falling asleep to the same way that
Yeah.
you did that were just really bad. And he would, you know, it was I don't know, that's sort of like a more historical thing.
No, but he did really shape the culture of how do I present myself as a video game player online. Like the rest plays were mean, but you can see why as someone who like invested a lot of time into developing this form would be like, you guys are fucking doing it bad. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it's go ahead.
Oh, I just if that reminds me a lot of like spork culture and fan fiction.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do remember
like that was a big thing in that era. Was people would basically do MST3K commentary on other people's fanfic and live journal communities, which like in this day and age is unthinkably mean. But it was just part of the culture back then, and that it just reminds me of that as well. Like
I mean,
you know,
I
it's
feel
kind
like
of remixing in a snarky way.
Yeah, I feel like now it's just the normal across various across pretty much every platform to like react to other people's stuff. Like, you know,
Yeah.
have somebody else's video playing and be like, either, you know, just let it play and kind of talk every once in a while. Or if it's drama, to be like, oh, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. This person's lying about this, you know, to really.
Yeah, I think you can see like the mini arc of how Twitch has developed through all these other previous iterations of like how do we interact, how do we create culture online. Because I remember I used to love reading sporks because it was like some fan fiction is written by 8-year-olds and it's like not grammatically correct and it's all bizarre. And then John was zombie, you know, like that kind of stuff. And it does take like a level though of community development and emotional development in that community to realize, wait, no, that other person is a real person. And Twitch has been through this with React content in general. Like the argument is slightly different. Like, is this real content is like the more of the argument there, but it's like you start doing something, it becomes a trend, and then you have to ask yourself, is this okay to do? We did it without thinking, and now it's really popular.
Yeah. And that's also kind of the issue, is that something gets popular, and then instead of being like, is this okay to do, people are like, how can we justify continuing to do this? Because it's big and we're not going to stop.
How can I get mine now that it's popular?
Right, exactly.
More people should. I mean, it's impossible to be like Northern Lion because that's a singular person. But
there we
they
go.
should find. Thank you. Yeah, they should find the Northern Lion in yourself because he. Okay, has anyone ever seen the clip? That Sisyphus.
There we go.
Yeah.
I knew you
Get
were
it
gonna say
twisted.
I knew you were going to say the Sisyphus one.
You've seen that when
Yep.
Sisyphus games became really popular, and I think I was at a techno festival, and somebody had put a clip of him like playing the Sisyphus game to like breakcore, and I watched it like 50 times in a row because it's just one of the most beautiful videos I've ever seen. Because this is the thing about Northern Lion, he's just a perpetually chill bald guy wearing Sennheisers, and like as a result, he just is spitting wisdom constantly, almost
Yeah.
just incidentally because he's well adjusted.
Yeah,
he's
he's
so
the
well
most-
adjusted that he has confidence.
He's married not to a Twitch streamer. They have a
No,
kid.
she's a Twitch streamer.
Oh, she's a Twitch streamer? I
Yeah.
don't know. Well, he's married, and they don't monetize their relationship in the way
Yeah.
that, say, like Ludwig and Cutie Cinderella do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like a very stable home life, and
You will never see a video of them like shot from like a GoPro in the front of a
Yeah.
car
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah.
having
They
a
both
serious
just-
conversation about somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that's what a coward does.
yeah, exactly,
No, Northern
exactly.
Lion likes to talk about Costco. He likes
Yeah.
to talk about going to Costco.
Yeah,
really
he
good.
loves
Yeah.
that.
He's
he
the only
simply
one.
does.
He's the only person who does that correctly.
You know, there's
Yeah.
like a lot of models of masculinity on Twitch that are extremely toxic, and
Most of
what
them.
makes Northern Lion really refreshing is that it's like a completely normative model of masculinity. He wants to talk about like millennial culture all the time.
Yeah.
He's always referencing like Gen X bands that I know and his chat doesn't know, and I find it really, really sweet that he starts talking about the replacements, and then no one in chat knows what he's fucking talking
Yeah.
about.
He's like the giver in that sense.
Yeah. But he's also really funny. Is the
Yeah, he's
glue that
really
holds it all
fucking
together.
funny.
He's just very clever on a moment-to-moment basis.
He's
Like
so
every other thing
cool.
he says, you're like, where did that come from? That's incredible.
Yeah.
No, if I was going to bring up like a favorite,
What
or
was-
just favorite and least favorite portion of the event, yeah, Northern Lion.
The
is
quote he had
for
recently
sure.
that was going around was he's like reading chat and someone says, and he's like, chat says, I need a girl with a wolf cut to destroy me. No, you don't, brother. You need health care. Eyes on the prize. You need universal income. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Do you get the feeling he lived a life and had wisdom before he started Twitch streaming? Like,
Yes.
is that the problem? Is that people start Twitch streaming
Yes.
and then don't get to go out and
I-
live their lives?
I think oftentimes for sure. So
You've gotta
another one of
go-
the
yeah.
one of the streamers that I talked to for the book, Co Carnage, who's been at this for ages. He was one of the early Twitch
Yeah.
streamers. He's still at it despite everything because a lot of streamers burn out and they quit. He's still doing it. But he had a whole life before he ever started streaming. He was 30 when he started. He'd worked a bunch of jobs in service, a bunch of jobs in IT, been all over the place. And so like, yeah, he, in terms of his longevity and just like what he's been able to do, he says that a lot of it comes from that he just like, you know, he was a person before he became a streamer. And so many streamers are instead like these kids who get into it and they don't know a life outside of it. And that shows both in terms of what they prioritize and what they talk about to their audiences, and also just like what they do with their time. Like there's that infamous story of like XQC buying a sports car and then never driving it because all he knows is sit in room, play video game.
Should it be like the office of the President of the United States where you have to be 35 to start Twitch streaming?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, you should need to be older.
That's the...
I think every Twitch streamer should be 50 or older. But there is another problem there too, which is that these platforms incentivize like kind of, you know, again, being this way or living in this arrested state of development and evoking all of these negative emotions with your content and like starting drama and perpetuating it and treating it as though it's the most important thing in the world as opposed to, you know, a series of small conflicts that don't really matter. And I think that's probably the bigger issue. I think it's less like age factors, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, to be able to like resist the pull of that shit, you have to have willpower and you have to be doing it intentionally, and that requires maturity and a sense of self that unfortunately, like for a lot of people on these platforms, the sense of self is the platform. They're filling a void that was not there with this, and like that's their sense of fulfillment. That's their like, that's their fucking Telios. That's the thing that like defines them, and without that, they don't know how to function. And I get the sense that if this all collapsed tomorrow, Northern Line would be like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah, there's not a lot of streamers that I could see like being able to go into another career post Twitch.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
there's some
He'll
that
show
are
up
like
to Costco. He'll show up to Costco. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, with a
Yeah.
name tag on.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
he'll
yeah,
do it.
living the dream now.
Yeah, he'd
Yeah.
be
Another
like,
thing
he'd be
I did
like,
I actually
yeah.
hated.
No, I was gonna bring up one of my favorite streamers. I mean, I think we both watch Hassan, we both watch Northern Lion, but I really started watching a lot of Ludwig. In a period where my husband's in grad school, I love him a lot, but that means that he's in class a lot, so I have a lot of time to fill. And he'll come home to me watching Ludwig's chat, buy him shit that he doesn't want or need, and he'll be like, "Baby, why do you like this?" And I'm like, I think his reactions are funny, but. What I do like, there's two things I really like. My husband's also an Angelino, and a lot of Twitch streamers are in Los Angeles because it's the hub of the entertainment industry, and being in the same physical location does give them a lot of opportunities to collaborate with each other.
I get that, but it also is like so strange to me because I like it could be almost anywhere.
You see, this is what I like about Ludwig. He always reps Los Angeles. He will sit on his stream with expensive Dodgers merch on it, and he does not. He understands that he is in a physical place, and that is not incidental. It's his community,
Right?
And he looks at Twitch. He's got that joke of being like a business mogul, whatever. But he does look at Twitch, and I do respect that he's looking at it in terms of, this won't last forever. How do I build skills out of this?
Yeah.
And think about the next phase of my life. Very few Twitch streamers are thinking of beyond the immediate success that they have. And I do think he's like, some things he's on, he's like a kind of annoying fence sitter. But I do look at that, and I just like baseline have a higher level of respect for that activity when you look at it and say, I am starting a small business and I have to manage a small business now. Where do I want to leverage that?
I guess what I mean to say is that like the geographical considerations of Los Angeles, it is always sunny, it's nice outside, you know, you can drive a cool car around. Like if you're at the high ends, that makes sense. The part that doesn't ever make sense to me is it's not like any of these Twitch streamers are like interacting with Hollywood proper in that way.
Is interesting
And that
too.
part feels
really.
arbitrary. It feels like they're doing it because that's where but like nobody's making the fucking jump. You know what I mean? There's still these like there are some people, but like there's still these like pretty big lines between.
And it's interesting because there was this moment where it felt like those worlds were going to collide more. And actually Ludwig ties into this really directly, in that there was this brief meta where everyone was doing these really big events with like production teams and everything. And like putting on different shows, whether they were award shows or like other things that had a bunch of streamers come together, and they're like really glossy and nice. And then like the audience for that didn't really materialize in a way that made it financially viable. And now everyone has kind of stripped down their production again, and they're just imitating Kai Cenat, who does these long marathons where he plays a particular game until he finishes it, or where it's a subathon, so people just subscribe to keep the time going, and so it can potentially go for a month or more, which is crazy. But it's also like, yes, there are teams involved in keeping that going, but it's often just like one camera in a room and things happen around that. It's supposed to like multicam Hollywood production team that you hire out, like literally from LA.
You can see the same arc of the way that television has changed in this sort of mini arc of big Twitch productions. Like Ludwig was doing like game shows, like Jeopardy and shit, and like building sets out, chess boxing, which is just fucking crazy. But then, you know, just like post 2008, television begins to see diminishing returns on that high production value. And they ask themselves, is prestige television really worth it? Can we do a 24 episode season of a TV show? Or should everything just be fucking 8 episodes now with 3-year breaks in between? So,
Dude,
you know,
this shit does not cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, but not anymore as much. Like, you'd be surprised how fucking sub $500 you can get your camera setup looking pretty good, mic setup looking good. You know, it's like,
true.
it's fucking, the shit got affordable.
I remember when I was working on Polygon had a Quibi show briefly.
Yeah.
Let's Quibi, 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 Quibi,
Quibi.
But it was so interesting because like we come from the YouTube world, and the people who were making like producing the Quibi shows out in LA, they really were invested in it looking better. Like we started the show, went into production, and then like 2 weeks later, pandemic lockdown. So we had to shift it from an in-studio show to in our host's apartment. And they were so critical and invested in making his apartment look nice and like very, very concerned with that. And for us, it was a big like adjustment because we were like, I think people just want to see him as a person, like in his home. They're used to watching people talking about video games in their bedroom. And so there was just a lot of like culture shock there to kind of get that show up to a standard that they liked, which I don't think made it a better show. But, you know, it was a interesting experience.
There is a huge difference in culture between the idea of what production value counts in Hollywood versus what production value sort of counts towards the total product in Twitch. We're trying to do more vertical video at Aftermath also, and part of it, we realized we all need better lights and better mics, et cetera, et cetera. But then I was like, I know that if I do a TikTok with a green screen, I don't actually want a good green screen. I want the in-app green screen because it makes you look like you're a part of the platform.
Verisimilitude. It's actual. I mean, and that's the thing is like you want it to be nice enough to be legible, but like you also inside baseball shit. But I will say those Godox lights are apparently really good.
I mean, what this goes back to is the idea of authenticity, as people call it. Mm-hmm. And like this has been a thing throughout the entire history of Twitch and YouTube and every other platform that broke down the barriers between broadcasting and regular people. And so when everyone first started, you know, their setups were subpar necessarily because they were just like buying whatever they could from, you know, Best Buy or wherever. And it wasn't very high quality equipment at the time. And then that became normal. And that became like a marker that you are a regular person as opposed to somebody who works for a network or who like has a lot of money or whatever. And now even if you have a lot of money, the way to do it is still to look like relatively normal, to have your bedroom behind you, to, you know, have a bunch of stuff cluttering it. Because if you look too professional and too nice, then you're not a regular person. You're not on the same level as the viewer. And the viewer doesn't trust you.
You need a single illuminated tube. It's very.
You need those triangle lights that everybody had for a while.
Those are
Remember
fucking
those?
awful.
Yeah.
I hate those. But yeah, LEDs got better, and so did preamps. Like those are the two things that got really good.
I think remote work really kicked us into high gear, where the overall quality of webcams and microphones for at-home use just got much higher.
Webcams still kind of suck a little bit, I will say. But you can get a good like DSLR. Like that has like they kind of realized like there's like a gap between like the shitty Logitech one that everyone has and then like a good DSLR, but they started making it so you can just plug those things in with like USB or that like all those are.
I remember telling my dad, who got really into photography after he retired, that a lot of Twitch streamers just use mirrorless DSLRs as their like camera, and he got so fucking mad.
It sounds like your dad lives a rich life.
He literally does. He goes to the gym every day at 5 a.m. Every day he's 75, and then he listens to all of his leftist podcasts. He loves Sam Sater also. And he loves
Sam Sater fucking rules.
Sam Sater's great. I've had to get him away from tanky thoughts and ideas a couple of different times, but he's what's really interesting about Twitch for my family is that it has allowed my father, who's like in Connecticut on his own, to really engage with political culture in a way that he wouldn't be able to just by like, I don't know, like it would be different if he went to like a DSA meeting or something like that. Like sometimes he gets into the weird dramas of Twitch. I remember at one point he started asking me who Jimmy Dore was, and I was like, I don't want to tell you that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, just don't. Stop it.
I saw a video of him recently, and it was really bad. And it was just on. I was like, why are we talking about this? And it's just like, oh man.
But in a way, you know, Hassan has kept him really in touch to international and left-wing news in a way that would be much harder for him to access as like a retired dad. And he feels so passionate about these causes. It's allowed him to remain involved and in touch with society in a way that not having like just not being able to do a guerrilla radio broadcast, essentially.
Well, also, I mean, think about the opposite end of that spectrum, where like we talk about the way that older people often evolve in like their politics and in their media consumption.
Yeah, I'm
And it's
incredibly
just, like,
fucking lucky, I have to
Fox
say.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's just like Fox News and Newsmax and like falling down these rabbit holes. Of
Even
conspiracy theories and
MSNBC, I
everything.
will say.
No,
it's
I can tell when my mom is watching MSNBC because she starts defending Nancy Pelosi.
yeah. No,
And I'm like, you don't even
can
like
hear it.
her.
And also, I mean, I think streaming is blowing up everywhere, including X Everything app. No,
Yeah.
I hate that shit.
Yeah, it's really bad. Don't delete your Twitter account. You don't need it. It's a dead platform. But speaking of like where platforms are going, I think if we want to kind of like, move toward wrapping things up, it's probably worth focusing for a minute on where we think Twitch is going. Because, it had kind of this big boom period in 2020 and 2021 as a result of the pandemic and lockdown and people not having anything to do. And so Twitch kind of gained this huge amount of cultural relevance where like all these famous people were going on it, people were checking it out. And then I think the assumption was that it was going to keep ascending, that it was going to become, as big as YouTube or as big as, some of the other platforms. But instead it sort of plateaued and has since sloped off a bit. Amazon has laid a bunch of people off. It's been covered in ads.
Yeah.
It feels like it's not having the biggest moment anymore, or rather that it's on a downward curve, and where it goes from here is uncertain. And so, I mean, like, I was wondering what y'all think maybe the future of it is, insofar as you're able to prognosticate in that way.
I will say everything that seemed to do well in the pandemic is basically the Disco Stew graph from The Simpsons, where he's like disco sales by year, 1970s, and he just charts it upwards linearly, and it's just like, but no, I guess it's just like how much patience does Amazon have with this product?
No, bad
I
news,
think
they have
that's a
patience for it.
question about like, do they keep it? I mean, does it make money? Does anything make money? You know what I mean? Like, does anything make money anymore?
Money's fake.
Literally, no.
Yeah,
Does
money's-
Not
is
real.
anything has anyone made a profit?
No, I mean, I was thinking about the future of Twitch is wrapped up in the entire future of the moving image industry, like all of it. Television is not making money. Streamers are not really making money. That's why the ad version of Netflix is now $16. Movies don't make money unless you are making like Marvel money levels of success.
Marvel's not making Marvel
and
money.
Marvel's not making Marvel
that
money
fucking
anymore.
Captain America movie looks like dog shit.
Yeah, the reviews are so bad. They're very funny, but it seems like we're in a crisis point for the entire like moving image entertainment industry, and Twitch is just like a microcosm of the problem, which is there's a maximum amount of eyeballs you can put on a moving image, and you can't force it. You cannot force it. Comparing something like a Kai Cenat live stream, it just makes me think of after Kendrick's halftime show at the Super Bowl this year, 1.3 million people just turned it off right after he stopped performing. Like, their culture and influence needs to come from like a really real, grounded place. You can't fake it. But Amazon, when they bought Twitch, they disco student. They assumed that, we can just juice these numbers forever and ever and ever, and it'll have unlimited returns, when in fact, like, there's a lot of people work jobs where they can't have a second screen open watching Kai Cenat all day, right?
Yeah. I will say with the Super Bowl, I mean, the Eagles had already won, so
that's
they
true.
They were like, all right, let's just watch
If
Kendrick
you're
and then
a
leave. They're not coming back from this shit.
But I think that you make a good point, which is after the Super Bowl, what were people talking about? Were they talking about the game? Not really. They were talking about like, Philadelphians rioting in the streets. But otherwise,
and
they were
Drake
talking
being
about,
destroyed in public.
Yeah.
That's the main thing they were talking about, was Drake being murdered again.
Like, there's a
Yeah, Drake versus Patrick Mahomes. Yeah.
there's like I think humans really crave these moments of collective experience where we all know we're watching something and experiencing a cultural event at the
we
same
all get
time.
together and make fun of one really shitty guy.
Exactly. No, we do love that. We love gossip. These are how we form and build communities. And the television used to give us the water cooler moment, which I mentioned earlier, where you have something to talk about. on Monday at the office when you see someone you don't really know grabbing a cup of coffee. You can say, did you see the big game? Did you see General Hospital yesterday? You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are all in our little micro niches. And when one thing really does emerge as like a universal cultural moment, it feels very special. Twitch does give the potentiality for that. But I think that Amazon has definitely overestimated its ability to sustain that level of enthusiasm over time. There will always be somebody like Kai Cenat who just shoots into the stratosphere, like always. And that's probably why they'll try to keep Twitch alive. But I mean, you see this thing with YouTubers also. A lot of people have secondary or tertiary revenue streams. So Patreon, almost every YouTuber and Twitch streamer has like a merch run. Also, merch doesn't make a ton of money, but it gives you a nice little chunk of change. You know, they are beginning to think about how do I sustain my own career as an independent broadcaster without relying on this company that does not understand how that infinite growth is not actually the thing they need to chase.
As somebody who is a YouTuber who gets an auxiliary form of income from Patreon, like that's what I make my money on. I don't make the fucking ad rev I get off of like any of this shit is like nothing because it's fucking garbage. It's not, I mean, it helps. It does make a slight difference, but it's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's half a sandwich.
Yeah, but like you have to like the amount of money you have to make is like obscene, or the amount of views you have to get is like really fucking obscene. But I also I guess a larger point is it's been funny watching Twitter collapse because it does feel like that this inflection point where like platforms feel pliable, like
or even vulnerable,
or like they could go away. And I think that there's an assumption when you're on a platform for a really long time, you've had a sunk cost, that you're like, well, where do I go after that? I got to do something. Like, I got to put these somewhere. And the answer is maybe you don't. And sometimes it is, maybe it's somewhere else. And maybe it's something better.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worse.
Well, I mean, because it brings to, it calls to mind a term that Cory Doctorow came up with, which is enshittification.
Yeah.
Not an amazing word, but it does get to the point of what's happening, which is that all these platforms, in pursuit of more and more profit and making the number go up, are basically getting worse and worse by creating all these new means of extracting capital, whether that's more ads or whatever else. And then the question becomes, how much will people endure before they say, I'm out of here? And like we're starting to see the answer to that question. Whereas before, I think that these platforms, to your point, Chris, felt like intractable. Like they were just always going to be there and people would put up with an infinite amount. But that's just not true. If a thing gets bad enough, people will eventually say, I don't want this in my life anymore. I want to go somewhere else or do something else.
Or you just stop doing it. Like the other thing is you could just do something else. And like that's the thing, is there's no shortage of places. I do think that like I watch these platforms because of my specific perspective, and like the way that, like, for example, game clips were being shared to Twitter for when it was what it was, that truly Twitter. And then that being disintegrating so badly that nobody was able to do that anymore. They took it off the platform. And then, like, where do game clips go? And it's like, well, do they go to TikTok? Well, TikTok kind of sucks for that shit because nobody wants to do vertical video in a fucking 16:9 format unless you really want to watch an annoying video. And it's just like it's this placelessness of where game footage is supposed to go, because it's like, where do you find moments on Twitch, because it doesn't work there. YouTube Shorts also suck. It's just like, where do you go? I guess sort of Reddit, but like Reddit also sucks because they fucking killed third-party shit, and it's like everywhere's collapsing. And it's like after a certain point you're like, maybe I just go to a bar instead. Maybe I'll go to the library.
That's where I get my game clips, from the library. But yeah, I mean, like, that is interesting though, because then the question becomes, what do we lose? Like, if things are being eroded to a degree where people just don't do something anymore, then does that form just go away? And I think that for some things the answer is yes. For other things, it just means like we go back to doing stuff in real life as opposed to, having online consume our entire identities.
I don't know if we go back into doing real stuff in real life. I think we just look at our phones in a different way sometimes. Or maybe we do. I don't fucking know. I don't know the future. I don't know if topsoil is going to be around in 10 years. I don't fucking know.
Somebody needs to make an app for topsoil. That's the key.
Good topsoil near you, yeah.
In New York, that would be a really useful app, right? Absolutely. I do I try to think about the things that we would lose if when we lose this, right? Like I've been on so many different platforms, like talking about going back to old fandom stuff. I used to be a fanfiction.net reader, I used to have a live journal. I used to go on Dream with, these used to be, I actually just got back into Tumblr and it kind of rocks for talking about TV shows. Hell yes. Yes.
Going
yes.
back to Tumblr.
No,
See? Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think you are right. We are just going to look at our phones slightly differently. I hope that.
What are you talking about?
I just started using a real like bound journal to release my anxious thoughts into, rather than just tweeting everything I think. And I've seen a huge difference in how it makes me feel. But I also think about moments like Hassan meeting with the incarcerated firefighters during the Palisades fire, and just how valuable that kind of thing is to society, like having a broad platform for guerrilla journalism, essentially, that can reach a lot of people. I know that in terms of seeing perspectives from Palestine and from Palestinians, Twitch has been incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, but also like TikTok and Twitter, and just like it allows people to understand that human beings on the other side of the world are human, have the same human struggles. You'd think that'd be easy for people to realize, but sometimes it's very, very difficult until you see someone talking to you and like expressing their pain and expressing their hopes and dreams. And I do wonder, you can't put that genie back in the bottle, right? People will still continue to have a desire to see those things. Now, a lot of people make online friendships with people halfway across the world rather than IRL friendships. And I understand that's part of the quote unquote loneliness epidemic, but those connections are real and meaningful. And how are we going to in the future balance this desire to have like a parasocial jokester man in your house talking 24/7 while you're doing the laundry with the actual real human need for in real life human connection?
An anecdote from the book that feels relevant to this is that when I was visiting one of the streamers, when I was visiting DJ Wheat, who is basically he was a very early streamer. He became a Twitch employee. Toward the end of our conversation, like his son got home from, being out and about. His son's like, I think at the time was 18, 19, 17, somewhere in there. Anyway, went into his room and started to do what sounded like streaming. Like he was, talking to an audience of some variety. And I was like, oh, is your son also becoming a streamer? And he's like, no, he doesn't want to do that. And I don't know if I even want him to do that. He's just like on Discord, streaming to like, 8 or 9 of his friends.
Yeah.
So it's a similar format, but it's a smaller community. It's much more akin to like what people used to do, like go into their, like hang out with a couple friends on a couch. One person plays a video game. The other people like comment on it.
Yeah, no, I do this. Like Maddie Myers, who also works at Polygon, and my friend Nico Deo, who mods our Twitch chat. And our friend Tyler Culp, who also now works at Polygon, I guess. We every Thursday we have gamer night, where sometimes we show each other new games we're playing, and we just shoot the shit, and we maintain our friendship that way. And there is, I think, the idea of Twitch maybe turning into something that is more small scale and literally community focused. That does sound very appealing, because part of the loneliness epidemic is that you aren't ever hearing your friends' voices. You're not hearing their little life updates, the mundane ones, and not just all the big things that they tweet about or post about. Like you need to have like we used to go to fucking Freemason meetings. We used to have bowling clubs and stuff like that.
We were going to talk about Freemasons today.
We gotta fucking get bowling alleys back, man. They're owned by one fucking company.
People used to roller skate and shit, and now we don't do these things where like on a weekly basis you are all doing the same activity. I fucking play, me and Tyler and Nico, because Maddie doesn't like it, we just play Overwatch for like an hour, or at least until we just fucking hate the game. Yeah. And it's like, well, Overwatch isn't even really very good, but we all relate to this thing, and we can all speak the language of this thing, and it becomes like a fun way to interact while we continue to get to know each other.
Deep Rock Galactic is really good for that.
It is. It's amazing for that. That was like a pandemic game for me.
That was a really good one, yeah.
Yeah, just dig big holes. Great time. All right. On that note, I think we can maybe like take a few audience questions, and then we can party.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand, and then we'll somehow get a microphone
Do
to
we?
you.
You can
These
come
all
up
have
here and
cords, so you're gonna have to come walk up to the stage.
you have to walk this way and talk into a microphone.
But
I'm really sorry.
you can speak into 3 microphones at once.
No, just one.
That would be horrible.
Okay, broadly, I love the Aftermath project. I am interested in how building a thing independently in this particular moment has given you a perspective on this enormous captured space of Twitch in particular. It's not terribly formatted of a question, but let me know what you think.
It's not a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
There was a
comment.
question mark at the end.
There
so
was.
that's
You
good.
actually had. Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, building an independent project relative to like, I think that it's interesting in that when you're making something independent that is supposed to exist outside of any of these big platforms that have basically colonized the entire internet, or basically they've declared themselves the entire internet. There's still a whole internet out there that's not that, but most people don't interact with it because it's not convenient to reach. And so that's been like, I guess, if not a stumbling block for us, then at least kind of a challenge is like, how do we say, okay, there are all these ecosystems over here that everyone's a part of. How do we get you to come to our little place for even like a few minutes and just look around as opposed to being part of your normal scrolling habits, your normal Twitch watching habits, your normal
And this
Instagram,
is like
whatever habits.
further compounded by the fact that we're in a moment where social media strategies for marketing have just ceased to work.
Yeah.
Like nothing is the same anymore.
Yeah.
None of the growth strategies work at all. And it is a wild west out there. Right now.
Something I've said a bunch is the second that Twitter made links algorithmically strangled, it was over. Because like the entire point of Twitter is it's not representative of a huge group of people. That's like fucking Facebook's that. Instagram is that. It's representative of people who are like within a particular sphere of influence. And those people tend to be journalists and politicians and shit. Or people who have things that are off the site that they would like to advertise. And the difference, I hate to give Blue Sky too many flowers because it's got a really annoying reply problem right now. Fucking do not correct. No, I'm sorry. But the very fact that you can get real meaningful traffic from there, like on a platform
changer.
that small, shows just how bad not just X the Everything app, but also like Facebook, Instagram. It's fucking hard. They've forced you to work within their ecosystem and like link sharing. Giving a tiny bit of link sharing on a tiny thing that gives you a decent amount of growth and can actually go outside of your ecosystem is so fucking needed. And it's, I don't know, it was a good time to fucking launch a website in that regard, I guess.
Yeah. I'm curious. Simone, how do you keep people coming to Polygon? Because Polygon is like, from a different era of the web, but has an audience already. And it's like, how do y'all keep them from getting lost in the social media sludge?
I think that's an ongoing question. We just redesigned our website, and part of that refresh was to make it more friendly for the people who are coming back to the homepage every day, which apparently happens, which rocks. Like, people come back. Yeah, it's
it's pretty
so
good.
rare,
it's
right?
really rare, and it feels really special. But then on the video team, I know we are a little bit separate from that because, we're like doing the thing where we're posting to TikTok and then posting to Instagram Reels, and somehow the same video gets astronomically different numbers on both platforms, and it's like, what's going on here? Like, is it the time of day? Is it the caption? I don't know. So there's a lot of, I think, the same struggles that we're facing with where do we invest our energy in the hopes of getting people to like read the website and follow it and engage with it and like make it part of their daily lives. And like we were Twitch streaming for a while weekly, and that's just something we don't do anymore because the audience growth kind of slowed, and also it takes a lot of time that we could be using to make YouTube videos, and that's something that I think is certainly more of a passion for me, but then also is, I think, it was just a better way to engage with people for us, and that's not true for everyone, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a complicated question. Should we podcast? I don't know. That's a whole other time-consuming thing.
Yeah, you're right. Wait, Polygon doesn't have a podcast?
No, we don't. Not anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we used to.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember Polygon Podcast did used to be like a it used to be like in the world of video games, a little bit of water cooler moments, you know, the video game news podcast, you'd pick your brand and then that would be where you got your video game news. And there has been a sort of like decentralizing moment when a lot of these major video game journalism outlets have just collapsed or not been able to survive or are being ruthlessly torn to shreds by a guy that doesn't wash his hands after he pees.
Yeah. Or even just like you have to like, it's not even necessarily that dire, and it's just sometimes you just don't have time to do a thing. You know, sometimes it's like your time is better spent doing this other thing, and like you have to like do that math, and you have to look at what the inputs are giving you and what you're getting out.
All right. Yeah. Next question. Noted Aftermath Discord member.
Hey everyone. I mostly watch Twitch during lockdown through VTubers, and Polygon has a really excellent video explaining those. But it's like a very specific stuff that's come out of Twitch, and I'm curious if there are other like stylistic production constraints that people are doing that like really stand out that are specific to that platform.
Let's see.
Is this? I thought this was buzzing.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
The cable tension. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
You know, VTubers I could never really get into just because I think it's just for me. My mom once said to me that she thought that they figured out technology at a certain point and they should have just stopped after that.
Yeah.
Like she got a computer that could do word processing and she wrote her thesis on it and she was like, after that, I really think they should have just stopped. And for me, like that's what I'm butting up against. Like I get why it's funny. I get why it's cool. I like a lot of the character designs, but the idea of watching that for long periods of time is where my brain doesn't want to let me do that.
I feel like for me, we've done a few crowd control streams on Polygon, and it's been so fun. So that's where the audience can like type in commands and either fuck with your gameplay or engage with the stream in some way. And we set up a Yule log stream last year that was there was just a log, and people in the chat could type commands to like move it one direction or another. And it's so dumb. It's just a log floating around the screen, but it was a fun thing for people to do. And I know that's very similar to like Twitch Plays Pokemon, which you talk about in your book. But I think that that's a format that has a lot of room for growth for me, is like, how can people very directly not just watch you and get a shout out or chat with you, but like mess with you?
Yeah. It's really
specifically.
I was going to say, I understand too much about some of the culture, more than for the amount of VTubers that I consume. I do like shout out to Shindigs. Shindigs rocks.
A dear friend of mine, actually.
Shindigs is so good at being like, hey, do you want to see this new technology that VTubers have done to like figure out how to do like oddly specific things in OBS? Fucking fantastic. But I also get this sense like I find HoloLive to be deeply ominous as a company and as a structure.
Like a VTuber agency,
I feel
basically.
like there's gonna be a fucked up scandal. I don't have any proof of that, for the record. It's just a gut feeling that we're gonna learn something atrocious like in like 5 years.
Oh yeah, it just happened. Yeah, just popped in.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, no, it's like everything that happens in it is just like very oblique and weird, and it feels like kind of like pop star like intentionally
Idol culture,
obfuscated
right?
torture
I was
machine.
about to say it's Japanese idol culture where there's
very directly. That's like where VTubers came from.
It makes me feel when I see Westerners get into the HoloLive, I'm always like, hang on to your butt. Like I don't know if you're ready for the level of control they want to exert onto you.
This is where all the like indie VTubers came from, is out of a resistance to that entire culture and being like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. And like, because the thing about VTubers is if they're with any of the major agencies, especially the ones based in Japan, if they decide to, retire, or if the company decides they don't want that person to be working for them anymore, they don't get to keep their character. So they built this entire channel. They built this personality. They did all this work. And they're like, yeah, but it's not yours. We own that. We're going to replace you with a different person who will puppeteer this thing. You're nobody now. Or
you just get like the end of Soylent Green, you look at the big movie of like sunsets and something, and then they like drop, they try to kill you. I don't know, not legally, nothing like actual, but like, I don't know, just the concept of you need an agency to be a cartoon. It just seems really, really fucked up to me, particularly when it's not particularly like you have to pay the artists to make an OC, but like for the most part, like once you get past that, like, you're good. You got it. You know what I mean? Like there's some technical shit there, but like it feels fucked up. I'm sorry, like at its core.
Yeah, it reminds me of the K-pop industry, and I am a K-pop listener and enjoyer. Stan ATs, Stan Stray Kids, Stan P1 Harmony. But I look at it and I see elements of like a torture factory, right? Like you look at Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, and go through all the experience of child fame and just how much money you can extract out of living human people. There are some similar elements there across industries. Any place where the product is a human being that interacts with you parasocially, there's a potential for huge problems, which is why I do like more experimental stuff like Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Yeah, still a landmark moment. And they're still around, by the way. They're still running Twitch Plays Pokemon.
That fucking
like,
rules.
Season 11 is, I think, what they're calling it right now. They're like having a big event. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that part of it is really interesting, though, because there's been so many attempts at recapturing that magic of that, because that was like one of the first moments that everybody was talking about Twitch, was Twitch Plays Pokemon. Like, I remember being at like a board game party with some friends who like were not Twitch people at all in like 2013, and they were like, have you heard about Twitch Plays Pokemon? And then we didn't play board games. Everyone just watched Twitch Plays Pokemon. But there hasn't really been anything like that, of that level of interactivity since. There's been little bits of it. Like I think the NPC TikTok trend is kind of similar.
Oh yeah.
Where there's just like somebody on a screen.
Yum, ice cream so
and
good.
You can like donate to them and they'll just say stuff. And like
so true.
It's capturing a similar kind of desire to have this granular control over a person or a character that you can watch and that you know other people are watching. But it's so hard to get it right. Like there was this whole generation of games that was made to be controlled via Twitch, and none of them really blew up. Just like nobody quite nailed it. And I think it's just,
it always is wow, that's a cool idea. Did anybody actually use the hooks for that game? And it's like, damn, that sucks, because it's like, I don't even know if those services work anymore, or like you can do that anymore. I don't know.
Well, the closest you come is Jackbox, but like Jackbox was doing Jackbox before Twitch reached this level of popularity where like the audience vote feature. And that is just so incidental to the game. Like it just doesn't, if you don't have that, your gameplay is not affected at all.
Don't the new games from the people that made Until Dawn, I think they have a streamer mode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the Until Dawn remake.
Yeah, where you can like vote on the decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Which
are fun
is
little
so
things.
smart, because that's what people were doing anyway in their living rooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, one final question, and then we can get out of here.
Oh my God.
Okay, Jordan. Yeah.
Hi, congrats on the book, first off.
Thank you.
My question, to me, one of the more like kind of fascinating differences between streaming and like television is just how much more ephemeral it is. I guess my question, in the process of like researching the book, did you ever find that you wanted to watch like a specific older stream and you kind of face difficulty in that, and like, oh, this just doesn't exist at all anymore?
Yeah, a lot of times, especially for things where like I wanted to, fact check a moment, or like if there was a moment that people were talking about that had historical significance, like that was a touchstone, I'd be like, well, I need to watch that myself to make sure that I'm getting the details right. And then I'd be like, oh, it's just not anywhere. It's not on Twitch anymore, because Twitch like deletes a lot of VODs and stuff automatically. And then like if nobody saved it on YouTube, then it's just kind of nowhere. It's just a thing that people talk about. And then both because you want to be accurate and for legal purposes, you can't include it in the book. Yeah. So it's definitely a hard part of it. And I think that's just also, the nature of the internet now in general is so much of internet culture is hearsay, because the actual original object just doesn't exist. Nobody preserved it. Nobody archived it. So it's gone.
Yeah. This is something that I think about a significant amount as somebody who does like amateur video archiving, is that like, I don't think people really understand the like how hard it is to keep videos on the internet, like how expensive that is to do, the amount of storage space, and how fragile that shit is. Like, yeah, if you put shit in cold storage, that's one thing, but like it's all fucking spinning hard drives. Like it's barely SSDs. It's literally just like, it's, you have shit, you have your backups and stuff like that, but data is really, really, really vulnerable. And they haven't figured that shit. Every once in a while, you'll see like researchers in China have figured out a way to get a fucking 200 and 50 terabyte like Blu-ray or something. It's like, cool, does it exist? Can you show it to me? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no fucking long-term solution. Storage for this stuff is really fucking hard.
It's not just like the digital aspect of it either. Film reels will disintegrate over time if you don't take care of them properly. Animation cells are the same way. VHSs are like not a very good transfer or copy. Laser discs are better, but only a few people like Chris Person have the equipment to rip and upload those things. And then if you do digitally transfer them, you have to maintain a server and maintain access to that server. And there are just a lot, like I have tons of hard drives from college that I just don't know if they spin anymore.
Yeah. It's also just, it's fucking hard. You have to like... It's so fucking... This shit's going extinct. And to some degree, you're like, well, do you need to save everything? And the answer is it's really relative. You know, like sometimes, like, you don't... Does the world need all of those VODs? And sometimes it's incredibly culturally significant, and sometimes it isn't.
Well, also, you won't necessarily... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You don't necessarily know the moment the thing is being made. Like, maybe you do something and you think, oh, this is dumb bullshit. It will never matter. And then years down the line, it does matter. And you should have saved it in that moment because people actually came to care about it.
The thing that people don't realize is that most of the internet, in terms of video, runs on FFmpeg. And then, like, nobody fucking gives FFmpeg the credit they deserve. FFmpeg is so fucking good, and it's responsible for everything you love in the world. But also, YTDLP is the fucking, like... Learn how to use that shit. It's really good. Would you like a command that you type in that downloads an entire channel's worth of content and then sorts it by date and then numbers it like that? Yeah, it's on GitHub. You can download that shit. It takes 2 seconds. Learn how to use the command line. It's fucking rad. It does it in a more specific way depending on how you want to do this shit. And like, this is like, if you found a video that you want to keep, download that shit.
Yeah.
Download that shit. Put it in your iCloud. I have like an entire folder of videos that I keep on my server that are just, here's some stuff that will make me sad if it goes away. Like that one guy who's ranting about Quaaludes, or like the kid from Brooklyn, or like all of C. Boyardee's videos, like Shrek is Drek. Like that shit, it will go away if you don't like it.
Yeah, anyway, Simone.
Or if you don't save it, sorry.
I was just thinking, so this maybe feels kind of tangential now, but like we all know there's only like a fraction of the silent movies that were made in the 1920s that exist now. And I feel like looking back at that from 2025, no one's like, oh, maybe I wish I had more silent movies, but we feel like we still have a decent representation of them. I think we don't know how much digital culture is going to remain 100 years from now, and there's no way of knowing what that looks like for a society to lose so much of its output, and what that will do to the trajectory of human history.
Do you know
that's just my thought.
Do you know what's bad for hard drives, guys? Do you know what's really bad for hard drives is climate change?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Climate change.
It's also bad for humans, so...
But also, like, the film output of fucking Brazil got, like, burned into fire. Like, there's movies that like, you think are a place, and then they're not.
Yeah.
Because,
One
like,
of the most famous examples of this is obviously Metropolis. Like, it's been hard to find a complete final cut of that film, and a lot of the ones that exist are very damaged. But the one I was really thinking of was... the first couple seasons of Doctor Who, BBC had they had a policy of just purging their archives after a while. I don't even think Doctor Who is a good show, but it sucks to just completely lose the beginning of something that has become such a cultural institution.
Right.
Dragon Ball. They threw away the fucking audio.
Around.
Yeah.
Like, it's bizarre to just be like, well, we'll just get rid of it. Who cares?
Yeah,
It's like, a lot of people care, clearly.
Yeah, you know, there's the tension here is that we don't know, like Simone said, we just don't know how that will affect our understanding of this moment in time in the future, that so much of this content is created to be disposable and then just disposed of. How can we like truly explain the experience of being a human being in 2025 if we don't have the stupid fucking Subway Surfers videos, you know? Like, how do you explain to someone 20 years from now what it was like to be alive now? You know, I remember you going and seeing Pompeii on my honeymoon with my husband, and that shit is preserved so accurately to the point that they have like meticulously, beautifully tiled images of dogs that say "Kawe Kana," which just means "beware of dog."
Yeah, it's the first thing you learn in Latin class, a class that I took when I was a kid.
It also
That's
appears in.
I've
explanatory.
forgotten all of it.
It also appears in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, you know, like just by having the ability to even just get a small slice of like the culture of Rome, you do understand a little bit more how much the world has changed, but also how much has literally stayed the same.
And how worried they were about dogs.
They had some mean fucking dogs.
Yeah.
But to bring it all full circle, I think that's a large part of why I decided to write this book, was to, capture some like historic and pivotal moments in Twitch's kind of like overarching history, and to preserve them in a way where even if some of this stuff erodes or goes away, there will be some kind of a record of it, hopefully one that is comprehensive. Because even if you look at like, people make wikis about stuff that's happened on Twitch. They make like all of these, or there's tons of Reddit posts, that sort of detail various moments, but they're still not really comprehensive, or they're very much from one perspective, or like they get deleted eventually because Reddit is also a living text that constantly changes. And so, yeah, my hope here was at least like that these moments are preserved, and that maybe it will encourage more people to do similar kinds of writing, and those moments will be preserved, and so on and so forth forever. Anyway, you should buy the book. It is actually this size. It's impossible to read.
There's no words in it. It's very small.
Yeah. Smallest book ever written. You'll finish it in an evening.
Hang on. Perfect.
All right. Class adjourned.
Thank you everyone for joining us. That was very nice. And thank you so much.
Yeah. I love it. Wait, hang on. Actually, we can do selfie mode.